Hey everyone, this is Steven Shinder Reviews in Video Form, continuing my review series for Star Wars Skeleton Crew. This will aired on Christmas Eve, but of course the holidays got in the way and, etc. So this episode, episode 5, is titled You Have a Lot to Learn About Pirates. I don't recall catching this being said in the dialogue in the episode, but regardless, we get a bit more progression here. It's a pretty good episode. Again, I'll be going into some details. We get a nice moment where Jod, sees Wim crying and, tries to give him some advice about, adventures and whatnot and hopes. He says a line of dialogue that includes your focus determines your reality. So that's a line that Qui-Gon Jinn said to Anakin Skywalker. So kind of wonder like if maybe he may have interacted with Qui-Gon. So I do think Jod is for sure a former Jedi student at least. Maybe he survived Order 66, etc. Um, Also, almost forgot to mention the parents of these kids. We get a little update on them in the beginning, seeing like how they're dealing with things. And I gotta say, I quite like that Wim's dad isn't just saying, I have to work. That's not his default line anymore. They're actually doing stuff, trying to figure out, you know, the stuff with the barrier. The people on Atatin supposedly like can't go beyond this barrier. So I do like that we're occasionally getting updates with the parents here. But getting back to the crew, the skeleton crew, like have they actually called themselves skeleton crew it like out loud, or is that just what the show calls them? I don't know. But they learned from SM-33 that the treasure is on this base on a planet called what's it called, Lapuna or Lanupa? Yeah, I think it's Lanupa. And also that the captain of this ship, the Onyx Cinder, was someone called Captain Renaud, which I realized, Renaud backwards is Donner, and of course Richard Donner directed The Goonies as well as Superman and his cut of Superman 2. So, yeah, nice little homage there. And they go to Lanupa, and the base has been converted into a resort of sorts. Well, I didn't mean for that to sound like that. But yeah, so kids aren't really allowed here, so they have to be disguised as elders, put in these cloaks and these masks and stuff. I guess the idea is that, there are shorter species. I mean, we've seen Jawas and such, so um, Jod is trying to make it seem like he's walking into the place with some elders, but he also ends up bribing the manager or the reception, whatever it's called. It was someone who works at this resort hotel thing. Well, both this and Doctor Who featured some sort of hotel or resort type place this week. That's a bit of a coincidence. And there's this bounty hunter named Pocket, but it's spelled different from how we would normally see Pocket because, it's Star Wars, so it's got to have a weird spelling. Knows who Jod is and sort of gives away. Well, one of the names that we hear for him is Dash Zenton. I think it's something like that. It's definitely Dash for sure, which I wouldn't be surprised if that was inspired by the name Dash Rendar, from Shadows of the Empire. So Jod ends up bribing the worker at this resort like even more, like has to give away more of the credits. At this resort, we also see a group of Mune or Moon. I don't know how it's pronounced. The banking clan species. They even mentioned the intergalactic banking clan. So interesting that this is a second live action Star Wars series in a row that we've seen that species. And we also see this Cthulhu like being named Catholips. So, yeah, I mean, they wear the references on their sleeves here. Um, and kind of curious whether like any fans will create their own like joke religion called Catholicism, but and yeah, this was an interesting character. I liked how helpful he was. Um, and they eventually find the treasure. I know I'm like skipping around like all over the place, but you get the gist. Like when they find the treasure, surprise surprise, Jod basically betrays them, wants to take charge, become the new captain. So he challenges the current captain, basically challenging a kid. So it's not really a fair thing. There is a moment where Wim finds a lightsaber, and when he ignites it, though, like it's aiming for the floor, so it ends up like flying out of his hand. It's this very clumsy thing. I thought this was interesting. Like I can see like maybe some fans being sort of bothered by this. I was kind of whatever about it. I like that the lightsaber isn't just the go-to for solving the solution here. And I never expected a lightsaber to be featured in this show at all. So I quite like that they're sticking to the kids having to find another way around this. But yeah, Jod is now in charge of SM-33, has a treasure. I'm not really surprised that he betrayed them. I mean, I don't think anyone is really surprised, but I do think his heart will come into play again somehow at some point. But yeah, I'm really curious to see what ends up happening. We only got 3 episodes left. Honestly, with a betrayal like this and getting to the treasure, I'm surprised that this wasn't the penultimate episode. I guess with the Goonies and some pirate related stuff, I'm so used to the treasure being reached like shortly before the end. So curious to see what they do with this, how the parents will come back into play. And yeah, I quite like that. This is the kids are gonna get out of this somehow. It's Star Wars. They're not gonna let the kids have some dark fate. But I am curious to see how exactly it'll play out. So yeah, I'd give this one an 8 out of 10, as I've given most of these episodes, I think. And yeah, I think it's a really solid episode. Not quite top tier as some other things in Star Wars, but I do like the progression. It is kind of silly how the kids aren't very good at maintaining their cover, but they're kids, so it's whatever. But yeah, so good episode. Really looking forward to the ones that remain. So thanks for tuning into this, and I'll see you all soon.